Today, we begin our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, it's going to be split up into 2 days. Today is round 1. Tomorrow is rounds 2 and 3, just like the NFL draft. But this is a super special episode because we're going to be continuing this mock draft with a 2027. I promised it last week, and I wanted to make sure we were through that part of the college football playoff because there was a lot riding on it. A lot has changed, but now we're going to be able to focus on it and be able to have an awesome continuation of this mock draft with that. We also have our first collaborative mock draft this week. You guys know Devin Jackson from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Love that man to death. He's always been the guy who I always bring on for the first, and he is always super in tune with the draft. So super excited to bring him on. Let's get into this, starting out with the number 1 overall pick. And yes, the trades from this will continue into that 2027 mock draft. Granted, I doubt any future ones are going to be traded based on this current draft order. But we do have to set some ground rules. I think that we're going to see Ty Simpson return in this. That's the big one. And Trinidad Chambliss has now officially ended up putting in his request for a 6th year. So he also will not be included in this. And of course, if there's anything else that pops up, we'll see. But it will be nice. And I think about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have the actual draft class. I'm so excited for it. But regardless, I just need to throw that out there because a lot of people are going to be asking, what happened to Ty Simpson? Maybe not in this episode, but in some other ones. That's going to be why I'm holding off on that, just based on how it all ended out. The injury and everything could end up pushing him out. And it allows me maybe to push him into that 2027 mock. Maybe not. We'll see. But number 1 overall, Las Vegas Raiders. We're taking Fernando Mendoza. There's still rumors that Dante Moore does not come out, but I ended up taking a long evaluation into this past week where he still had some struggles versus Texas Tech. And honestly, everybody makes mistakes. I honestly thought his overall game was far less scary than what it initially appeared to be on camera. So, or at least in terms of the game broadcast. I thought he operated a lot of the offense very well. And so I'm keeping him in this mock draft. There's still a very strong rumor that he's going back to school. And it would make my job a lot easier for later this week for me to just say he's going back to school. But I do think that there's going to be enough rumors out there that are going to say, oh, Dante Moore is going to go back to school. He's going to get paid about the same amount as his first year. But the goal is, to be fair, to put yourself in the right situation. The Jets is a very, very, very tumultuous situation. However, let's just look at the offense itself, because that's what Dante Moore is going to be operating, not the team, but the offense. And he's going to be part of, as they can retain the interior of the offensive line, one of the better offensive lines, 2 young stud bookend tackles. Weapons-wise, we have pick 16, 33, 44. One of those is going to be a weapon. I'm going to be very happy with A.D. Mitchell, some type of possession weapon, as well as Garrett Wilson. And then you also talk about Mason Taylor too. So I feel very comfortable with that. And then you end up looking at the running back situation. I personally think that you're in a pretty good spot, at least for year 1. If you wait, and again, I think this is the whole thing is like, will he versus should he, right? I think we all agree he should come out. Question is, will he? I don't really see the logic in returning because next year, I mean, there's going to be a lot of competition. He might end up being 10, 13, 14. What if he doesn't end up going in the first round? There's a big amount of loss, a big amount of opportunity cost that can come of this. So we're going to go Dante Moore quarterback at 2. Just got to throw that out there. We have to have that discussion. There's a strong inclination that he returns to school. But again, I do think that in a class that is this weak on quarterback, with 2 teams at the top that are desperate for it, I very much am open to the idea of Moore deciding to come out, get his money, go to a situation again. How many teams are going to have 2 young stud offensive tackles? Off the bat, that alone, that's insane. And then you have A.D. Mitchell, super high ceiling deep threat, which granted Dante Moore does struggle a little bit in terms of the deep passes, but I will say I think he'll be just fine. And then you also have Garrett Wilson, who I think would thrive with Dante Moore. I think that's going to be a career year almost for Garrett Wilson with the way Dante Moore likes to utilize his receivers in space with timing. I think it's going to be awesome. And then you add in a possession threat somewhere in this draft. You're going to be in a great spot. And again, you have one more year of Brees You also have Braylon Allen. Like there's pieces there that I think Dante Moore could be convinced whether Aaron Glenn is there or not, which I think 98% chance that he is. Like let Aaron find the defensive pieces. You got rid of your two best ones. You're going to have some struggles. But I think the offense is far closer than what we believe. And the quarterback makes a big difference. So Dante Moore, this selection there. Number 3 for the Cardinals. Again, even though he wouldn't be in this consideration in the first place, I'm still having Ty Simpson not part of this. Ty Simpson, via reevaluation, I honestly thought he was still like a top 32 quality player. He's had his bad moments, but if you'd be absolutely incorrect by saying neither of the top quarterbacks, or saying that neither of the top quarterbacks didn't have their bad moments either. I think with Ty Simpson, a lot of the issue stems from the fact that he literally is dealing with a 9% drop rate with his receivers. You can't build up momentum when it's like that. The offensive system's not there. The team quits. The offensive line's not on like super par. Like Indiana has top tier offensive line play. Oregon, even though they got their ass kicked a little bit, still in that realm. And also Mendoza and Moore have exponentially better run games. Is anybody going to talk about how Ty Simpson has literal bums for running backs? Of course not, because there's a big ass movement to just say Ty Simpson's ass. Hate to say it, but when your wide receivers can't catch the damn ball and your running backs can't run it, not going to be too easy for you to have success. And they still made the playoff. So just got to throw that out there. Ended up being benched because of injury, not necessarily because of poor play. I'm just going to throw that out there because there's some people who like to kind of like twist it in a way that's not true. So I'm going to be the one who's willing to talk about stuff. I always keep it 100 here. I hope you guys love it as well. If you don't, I understand, but there's a lot of people who like to play, rainbows and butterflies. God bless them. I like watching their content too. Not for me. Not for me, myself, because I don't think that's genuine content. And you guys, at least those of y'all who do like it, at least deserve something real. Number 3, Arizona Cardinals. There's 3 picks that we can talk about here. And thank God I'm including Dante Moore. I'm not ready to absolutely fuck myself over just yet, because if I did not include Dante Moore, I don't even know what I would do with pick number 2. You can talk about a wide receiver at that point and then, try to play the cards down the board. But, that's rough. Because Arvell Reese, we all want him to go super high. But, unless there's an edge application, it's going to be a little bit difficult to justify that based on current trends. For the Cardinals, it's between Bain, Reese, and then Spencer Fano. The question is, how high do we think Spencer Fano is going to go? Spencer Fano is a really solid option. Now, CC Mauigoa, his recent play has kind of garnered him as an almost top 5, top 10 selection. So that is something that you can consider here. So I got to give a shout out to both of the right tackles, because I do think in such a weak offensive tackle class, we might have to push them up further. When we talk about Arvell Reese, when we talk about Ruben Bain, we're talking about a linebacker / edge, which we just got rid of Gannon. We got to see the system that will end up coming in, of course. But, they usually go for a safer pick. So I think that with Arvell Reese, it's almost too much of a unicorn. So we'll just see someone like Ruben Bain at that point. But Ruben Bain, at the same time, he has some statistical issues, sub 31-inch arms. Now, I'm not the one who's going to blow that out of proportion. I have my board below my face for that reason. You guys know what I think of certain players. It's not predictive. It's the value that I have on those players, respectively. And remember, there are always steals in other rounds that are better than some of the guys who go in the first. So I don't want to hear it. But, I will just say, going after offensive line just feels like the right move. Edge rusher is a very deep class. Linebacker is a very deep class. Tackle is not. And you have legitimate starting tackles here. The question is, which one do you believe in more? And I will say, because we're seeing CC Mauigoa balling out here in the playoff, when it matters the most, versus Ohio State, I think the momentum can carry him above Spencer Fano. We're going to go CC Mauigoa there. You could try to trade back, but there's just nobody who is going to garner the offer. The cost to move up is just ridiculous. Like, before you guys say, we need to trade back, who's trading up? The Giants could try to jump the Titans for a wide receiver. Why? There are a lot of very good wide receivers. I would prefer to keep my picks because I think the value from 5 to 3 is like a second round pick. I'd rather keep my second round pick, especially in the state that the Giants are in. Should have a new GM. They don't, but new coach. They need to have as much ammo as possible, and we'll see what happens. Number 4, Tennessee Titans. Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese, and then also the weapons right here: Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate. Now, we all get excited about Ruben Bain. In college, he's an absolute savage. He is a monster. I think he's fantastic. Again, he's top 5 player for me. There's something that we need to think about here, though, organizationally. First off, it's going to be dependent on the coach. We're going to have a lot of questions answered over the next couple of months, which is why we do this. It's fun to think about, to theorize. But the Titans ended up investing in Cam Ward, and he had actually a pretty solid season, especially for how slow it kind of started. I think this is a prime opportunity to continue investing in your most important asset, which is your young quarterback. And it is far harder, in my opinion, to find a true wide receiver 1 style of player, whether that be through free agency or through the draft, than it is to go after a starting quality edge rusher or a starting quality linebacker. And again, I don't see the massive trade offer trying to be made happen right at this point for a move up of this caliber. I'm going to make this happen. We're going to go wide receiver. Now, Jordan Tyson is the best wide receiver in the class. I don't think there's enough debate that's going on, or there's too much debate going on right now in terms of the talent. But there's certainly enough to discuss because of the health concerns. And I think he's missed time every single year, but they're just not connected. So the question is this a string of bad luck? Or is this actually is he actually just a piece of glass? Is he Ricky Pearsall? I saw a meme of him looking like glass, so that's why I'm pulling that out. But I would say the Titans need to get a wide receiver 1. Whether it's Tyson or Tate, I could honestly give a rat's ass. Either way, you're having a damn good one, and both of them deserve to be a number 1. Both of them deserve to be an X. Carnell Tate is going to be my selection there. Provides the deep threat ability. He also can attack every level of the field. And once again, even though he missed some time this year, he still has been a very, very solid option for the Buckeyes and something that I think is going to continue in the NFL. And he's 6'3", 200 pounds, great for the boundary, really has improved. And I love betting on players that are trajectory up, not stagnant, not down. Number 5 for the Giants: Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Jordan Tyson. Those are the 3. Now, the question is, what happens with KT? Shout out to Oaks Christian, same high school class. Shout out to him. But there's a chance he's gone. And I think there are some teams that I would honestly try to throw, 4th, maybe like a 4th and like a next year 4th for KT, especially, again, we'll see what happens, obviously. I would try to tag and trade if you can, just see what you can do there. But it opens the door for Arvell Reese. Coaching-wise for the Giants, I would pray that Matt LaFleur could be your coach. That would get me into Arvell Reese because I would love to see him utilized as an Edgerrin Cooper type. But at the same time, you'd see someone like Ruben Bain being a little bit more of the physical phenom that could end up being, in terms of the strength, that would end up being more of a high quality, high floor edge. Arvell Reese, a little bit more of the project. I don't think I'm ready to pull the trigger on defense yet, though, because that's a very tough situation. Now, the problem is MetLife has a curse, and so does Jordan Tyson, apparently. So are we going to be rolling the dice on him? But now you look at the weapons for Jackson Dart. First off, I just pray Jermaine Illuminor comes back. Otherwise, we might very seriously be talking about Spencer Fano. Marcus Bowe, love him, friend of the show. Someone who I think should be continuing to be a really solid swing tackle given the amount of injuries. I hope that that's the case. Otherwise, Spencer Fano becomes a lot more of an option now than what it has been in recent memory. Jordan Tyson's what I'm leaning towards. Caleb Downs is a great player. I think he'd be a good pick. Arvell Reese, a good pick. Ruben Bain, a good pick. I don't have enough clarity on the vision for the disposal of KT, as well as kind of seeing the vision for, trying to bring in Arvell at this point, because you have an identical project with someone who is a full-time edge with Abdul Carter. So I just think that there's a little bit too many balls to juggle, so to speak, with Arvell Reese's situation. Ruben Bain, it doesn't really feel, especially Elijah Chapman. You guys drafted him a couple years ago, maybe 1 year ago, but by the time of this draft, I think it's 2. But he was in the 280 range. So it's going to be like, are you going to kick Ruben Bain to the inside, which I feel would be a misuse of his talent? We're still going Jordan Tyson. And again, I don't see enough teams with the proper draft capital to make a proper move up here. I would try to trade back. There's just nobody who I think has the respective necessary capital to make a move up for Arvell Reese or for Ruben Bain, which again, some people have round 2 grades. We all knew that's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, I'm just going to be so honest. Half of the time I think that, guys like Dane Brugler, I think they're definitely telling us the truth. But I don't trust the validity of what people are telling them the whole time. Just like we see agents pull the legs, so to speak, of some of these big media guys. How do we know that some of these scouts are like, okay, well, we now know we're going to be reporting Ruben Bain as a 2nd-round pick? You know what I mean? You tell me the Dallas Cowboys, who are sitting there at 12, that's a great spot for Ruben Bain, are not going to try to trick teams into believing that Ruben Bain's going to be a 2nd-round pick? You're telling me they wouldn't potentially lie or at least extend the truth to people like Dane Brugler? If you believe that these guys are 100% honest 100% of the time, it's time to get a reality check. There's nobody in your life that's 100% honest 100% of the time. And half of the time it's because you think that someone's sitting on a fucking TV remote. What do you think what happens with your multi-million-dollar investment for your franchise and the most valuable draft piece? There could be some strings pulled. So I just need to throw that out there. But at number 6 for the Cleveland Browns, this is where we're starting to get into approachable territory for a move back. Like, I do think that wide receiver's possible. You look at Mekhi Lemon, I think that there's a strong chance that he could at least be considered in this range. But I also think that there's some very good wide receivers in this class that we can start targeting in that mid-range, which I feel comfortable trading down for. Offensive tackle at the same time, you could be looking at Spencer Fano at this point because it is a very thin class. And Spencer Fano is still, to me, a top 10 type of talent. I still think he's a very good player. Like, I have Maui Noah and Fano both in my top 15. I think both of them are very good offensive linemen. And I think both of them would be an asset to the Browns. I don't think the talent they have now should stop you from going after these younger, more talented, cheaper for the long haul type of players. So I think it's the right move to invest in offensive line. It's the most important thing. Okay, you got to get shitter weapons or whatever quarterback is going to be there. I don't think it matters what weapons you have if you don't have the offensive line to protect him. And most importantly, your lifeblood, especially over the past probably damn near decade at this point, has not necessarily been the quarterback play. It's been the fact that you had really good running back play. And you will continue to do it, knock on wood, when Quinshon gets back from that leg fracture, and you had it with Nick Chubb. It's time to be able to continue having that be your identity before you start trying to get fancy with the rest. Spencer Fano's the pick there at number 6. At number 7 for the Washington Commanders, I mean, you're having incredible value here. We'll see what happens in terms of the structure, how comfortable the organization is, and are they going to, how much control is the head coach going to have, right? Because there's a certain point when you start having failures that ownership starts taking over a little bit, micromanaging starts to happen. You know what happens. Like, when you stop trusting somebody, you start becoming a little bit of a pain in the ass. So the question is, do they go Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain here? I love the flexibility of Arvell Reese. I think that he's going to be more of a luxury item, or at least not a luxury, a novelty item, compared to Ruben Bain, who has some red flags respectively. Even though Arvell could, he's undersized, he has a limited amount of experience, probably won't have the biggest arms either. But he is a little bit more shiny. We kind of have some prospect fatigue with Ruben Bain. I'm going to go Arvell Reese here for the Commanders. They should trade back, but sometimes when you have a golden ticket fall into your lap, you don't say no, you say thank you. And that's how I feel right there. Number 8 for the New Orleans Saints. Honestly, part of me wants to absolutely fuck the Chiefs over. You guys know I find a new team to screw over every episode. But, Caleb Downs is speaking to me. The problem is the Bengals don't trade in the first. So the team I'd have to trade was like the Dolphins, which they're not going to be. They sure as hell are not going to be in the mood to do that. And then the Cowboys. The Cowboys get aggressive, but they also don't have a second round pick nor a first next year. So it is very tough to say they're going to spend the proper capital to move up to 8. And let's just assume they do that. What are the Saints going to do when they trade down? Because Ruben Main's going to be gone. Jeremiah Love's going to be gone. Caleb Downs is going to be gone. You kind of are screwing yourself by doing this. Peter Woods is your good fallback option, and that's a great, and I mean a great fallback option. But who says that the Ravens wouldn't try to trade up with the Dolphins and snipe Peter Woods in front of you? And then you're having to make a very, very tough decision. I'm just telling you right now, that's exactly what I would do. If I'm the Ravens, I'm trading up instantly. Now, the Ravens could get ballsy and say, we want Ruben Bain, because they're also in a pretty tough situation. But I do think that they're going to sit and lurk at 14 and be happy with it. I don't think there's an option for the Saints that's genuinely realistic as well as profitable for them. So the question is, where are we going to go from here? My targets right now are these top 3 players: Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, Ruben Bain Jr. Ruben Bain in a 3-4 front is going to play more inside, right? He's going to be a 3-4 defensive end, as we like to call. But also in certain nickel packages, you're going to have an odd front. Odd fronts, you're going to be a D end, right? So there are ways for Ruben Bain to be really well utilized here. But you are also asking Ruben Bain then to play a significant amount of snaps, technically out of position, right? So over the tackle and inside, he's having pretty much 100 reps on the year. I'm not a fan of that when you have 700 outside. I'd prefer for him to be more into a SPAG system, out of respect for Ruben Bain. I think Caleb Downs is the best player in the draft. He's been consistent. He's been reliable. And if you want to continue building a team that is going to compete, you need guys who are consistent and reliable. Low value position, who gives a damn? When you find a really damn good one and you trade them away, sometimes they go for 2 first. How's the value then? Otherwise, these players are not super expensive comparatively to other positions. And very similar to tight ends, if you want to buy the best of the best, you either have to pay an extremely inflated amount via trade, or you have to draft it, because you're going to retain a very good asset that doesn't cost that much to you. So Caleb Downs is going to be the weapon there. And I know Staley likes his flexibility. I know Saints fans love this one. So, definitely developing a young, very talented defensive backcourt there, piece by piece. Number 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs, great situation to be in. Jeremiah Love or Ruben Bain Jr. Now, here's a strategy that I almost want to implement right now, and I actually might. I'm thinking of trading back with the Dallas Cowboys. First off, strong connection between the Hunt family as well as the Jones family. You want to know why? Because the Hunts are in Dallas. So there's literally a Hunt scholarship at my college, SMU. So pony up. But I will just say, Ruben Bain Jr. is exponentially better than anything the Cowboys could be going for at number 12. They could trade up for Jeremiah Love, but this team has done a phenomenal job finding really good running back value. For the Chiefs, I would be very intrigued because I ended up already adjusting this, ended up sending the future one. And shout out to PFF. As much of like a new asshole as I ripped them, they actually ended up updating the majority of, the pick situation. Like for the Dolphins, they ended up giving them that 3rd round pick from the Eagles. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells. If you guys spot anything else out, tell me. I will tell it to Trev. I kind of talk into his ear a little bit sometimes about how to update the simulators. So, I'm a genuine pain in the ass. It happens. But, that's just the way that we handle things. Now, what I could end up doing for the Cowboys is a very unique situation. I think this is mutually beneficial both for the Cowboys and the Chiefs. The Cowboys, you need to get a boundary corner. You need to get a top-tier edge rusher. 40 is an interesting spot because this is what I'm proposing. 12 and 20 for 9, 40, and 74. The Chiefs move up and basically flip their 2nd and 3rd into a 1st. And then the Cowboys end up moving up 3 spots, which based on the calculations, that's about a 3rd round pick. So, the cost of a 3rd round pick as well as getting a 2nd and a 3rd is the cost of 20. You could think about it that way as well. If you want to toss in some sugar coating, like a future 3 as well, do your shit. It's not going to massively affect the mock draft in that way. But for the Chiefs, this does provide extreme firepower. And I have a vision for exactly what I want to do with that pick number 20. So I'm going to do this. The Dallas Cowboys and the Chiefs recomp their picks. Say, you know what? I like what you have. The grass is greener on your side. The grass is greener on my side to you. We're flopping. Jeremiah Love is a great choice, but I'm going Ruben Bain Jr., superstar edge rusher out of Miami. He has been ridiculous this year. He is a perfect replacement for, rest in peace, friend of the show, friend of mine, Marshawn Kneeland. God bless his soul. Obviously, there is a vacancy there on the roster, and we're here to fix that. But there's no reason to make an extremely long lamenting process over our friend. Ended up having that. If you want to go check it out, there's a tribute over on the show. So, number 10, Cincinnati Bengals. This is a fun one because I ended up taking some really good options away from them. The options are Peter Woods and Keldrick Falk. Those are the two that instantly stand out because defensive interior, Al Golden, they work together hand in hand. Peter Woods, to me, is the second best player in the class. I think he's an absolute freak show. And even in a down year, he still balled the fuck out. I think he's awesome. The other player, Keldrick Falk, is having an all-time agency run with the fact that he is an extremely high floor player. Extremely high floor. People are saying he's a guaranteed top 10 pick. I think that Keldrick Falk fits everything the Bengals usually look for in a high pick at edge outside of the athleticism. I think he's a solid enough athlete. There's a lot of flexibility to his game. The reason why I lean Keldrick Falk is this. If you lose Trey Hendrickson, or maybe have one more year left where you're just continuing to kick the can down the road, Keldrick Falk is going to be such an asset to reestablish that floor. You have Shamar Stewart, who has no floor. He's a freak athlete that needs time to develop. And Miles Murphy, who has not really done a ton, who is a freak athlete, does not have the floor. What you need to establish is a floor before hitting for the ceiling. And Keldrick Falk will do that for you. Now, the question is, do you go defensive interior or edge? And I will say I would prefer to go after defensive interior at this point, but I do think edge is going to be the pick. He's super young. He's 21 years old. He can play every single position. So certain downs you can kick him to the guard, to the nose guard spot on certain packages, as well as a 4-eye. He can play anywhere except wide 9. That'd be kind of crazy. But just based on the fact that everybody and their mom thinks Ruben Bain's a top 10 pick, I can't imagine that he ends up falling much more than this. At number 11, this is where I am starting to get a little impatient with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm seeing Peter Woods here. I'm thinking that I might want to make a move. I could try to make a more desperate move with the Chiefs, just try to make sure that Jeremiah Love is taken. I don't see enough teams lurking in the wind for me to feel like that's the primary issue. Are there any other teams looking for Peter Woods? Because the Dolphins, my goal would be trade down, get some extra capital, get a wide receiver or a corner. That's my thought process there. The Rams are looking at a corner. That's going to be my pick there at 13. So I will say I feel a little pressured for the Dolphins at number 11 at this point. And if you could end up sniping, whatever value that is, I think it's I think it's a 5th round pick from 11 to 12, just based on the fact that, it's a 4th rounder from 17 to 15. I think a 5th is perfectly reasonable in this range, or maybe it's a 4th. But if you get scooping up some value, that'd be kind of cool. But I don't know if you actually get that lucky. I think sometimes it's best not to play games. And the question would be, do you go after Mekhi Lemon, or do you go after someone who is just a baller at corner in Mansour Delane? You guys will see. I dropped out a top 10 player on my board in Brandon Cisse. I ended up taking a long look at his game versus Texas A&M, and there are some really big red flag moments there for me that I did not see in the other games that I'd watched as closely. So I will say Brandon Cisse, he's actually around 34 on my board. He is somebody that I have now taken out of the running for my top cornerback. Still think he's a baller. Still love the flashes, but definitely a lot more system specific. Mansour Delane is not. Even though he has 10th percentile in arm length, he's still as an absolutely lockdown corner. Jermon McCoy has enough issues to worry about in terms of how well he will come back from not playing. It will be almost 2 years since he had stepped on a football field to play in a game. So it's 1.5 years. So I guess it's noticeably less. But Mansoor Delane is going to be my pick. Just go after best player available. If he has to go into the nickel, who cares? A lot of top tier wide receivers play in the slot nowadays. So I'm perfectly happy with that. Mansoor Delane, to me, is a fantastic corner, a top 5 player in the class, and at a position where you definitely need to reestablish your foundation. And Mansoor is exactly that. But the Chiefs ended up trading back, recomp their picks, and go after Jeremiah Love at pick number 12. Once again, there's a vision for this. Stick with me. Number 13 for the Los Angeles Rams. It is cornerback or it's wide receiver. I do think there is a strong chance that, Devontae Adams old as shit. I mean, the dude is having back cramps mid-game. Granted, I think we all do sometimes midday, but it's true. He's just not he's not a spring chicken, all right? So I do think someone like Mekhi Lemon at this point, if you don't get Mansoor Delane, you're starting to think about that, right? There's enough question marks with Jermon McCoy, again, being out for so much time to where, yeah, I mean, I could definitely justify someone who, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he just won the Blitnikoff off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure he is, but a really solid weapon in LA, dominated. So you already just know there's a local fan base already for him. And he is somebody that is just dynamic. He's not a super flashy player, but none of the Rams receivers necessarily are overly flashy. Because again, we're talking about an older Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, when he came out, like he's just somebody who is really damn solid. I'm not trying to dumb him down by any way, stretch or form, but we're talking about a 5th round pick here. It wasn't like he came into the league some flashy, dashy superstar. He just ended up becoming that right off the bat. So lucky for him. But I'm going to go after the wide receiver here. I don't really see, again, there's not, like Peter Woods is here, but I don't see a team. The Jets could get ballsy. That would be kind of crazy. If the Jets ended up landing Dante Moore and Peter Woods, that would be kind of fun. I think there's an interesting argument to be made there. And I think the Ravens are going to hear it, and they're going to say, Rams, just listen to me, brother. We're going to give you a small pick swap. I think the Jets are going to call up, and the Rams are going to listen. And I think they're just going to be happy taking a small consolation prize from the Ravens. So pick 120 to go from 15 to 17. I think this will be noticeably less. 172 for the Rams, honestly, is a pretty fair, straightforward deal. Just a quick pick swap here. And so the Ravens move up to select Peter Woods because I think his versatility next to Travis Jones and being able to play everywhere is immeasurable for this team. And then for the Rams, again, I talked about it. We're going to go Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. Get that small value. Again, the Jets probably trying to offer a little bit more in a trade up. But for the Rams, continuing to move further and further down poses a big risk for teams that want to potentially move up. Again, that's just the nature of things. Number 15 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sonny Styles, very, very intriguing option at this point. He did not have the best game versus Miami. He did have some moments where he disappeared. I'm still in the Sonny Styles linebacker 2 realm. To me, Jake Golday's in that equation as well as him. I mean, there's a lot of other players in the mix at the moment, but like Sonny Styles is a fantastic weapon. I think edge rusher is a big one, but this is also a really deep edge class. I'm not really worried about that. Again, I don't really think at this point there's really anybody outside of Sonny Styles that I would end up doing a trade for because a lot of the positions are pretty well saturated to where you can't justify the value. So we're going to go Sonny Styles there at number 15. It's a team that needs a linebacker. He is arguably the second best linebacker in the class. Might be the best if you classify Arvell as an edge. And it's just a good spot to go after a high floor option for the team. I think it's a great fit. Sometimes it might just not be the best value, but it ends up working out. 16 for the Jets. First pick was Dante Moore. And again, you guys know exactly what I think about this. I want to go Denzel Boston. It's the dream for me. Think about it this way. Offensive line pretty much complete. Free agency will determine whether it actually is or not, but this is also a class where you can get some good guards here and there. So there's not really a big press there. Weaponry. Denzel Boston, AD Mitchell, Garrett Wilson. To me, all three of those provide different assets to the offense and complement each other extremely well. They cover each other's blind spots in a way that not many wide receiver cores are that well rounded. And running back wise, you're pretty much set for at least a year. So if you want to give Dante Moore the best chance to succeed, this is the way to do it. Now, do you want to get cute and move down? Maybe. I mean, there's not a really strong argument why you wouldn't do it if the option was there. But we are also talking about wide receiver in a class where Chris Bell ended up tearing his ACL in front of me. I didn't even know about it. Got to see him in person. Awesome to watch. But towards ACL, and then we're talking about a bunch of players that have good talent, but it's a significant drop-off over these true ones. You don't mess around with letting a true one slip. I already know the Steelers get aggressive. I love my Steelers. It's my team. If you guys know, I'm not biased by the fact that I don't let Denzel Boston fall and let the Steelers snipe him. All right? Like, I think that would be an amazing pick for Pittsburgh based on the talent that's available. But Denzel Boston completes the offense for the Jets, and now they can focus on rebuilding the rest of that defense. And that's a good place to be. I didn't really think the value was impeccable at defense here because of how many guys are available. And I thought it was perfectly right for a very top-heavy with a big drop-off position that is of need with wide receiver. 17 for the Detroit Lions. I mean, left tackle's a big one. Caden Proctor, probably going to be the choice. So for me, I'm now looking at a way to, I mean, apparently someone's dying outside. Hopefully you guys don't hear that, but we're definitely going to be looking to see if there's a way we can claw back some value here. Is there a player that needs to be taken? Now, Jermod McCoy definitely is going to be at risk with the Vikings lurking right there. Is there a team that would want to do that? I think there's too many teams with too many needs to make that claim to where it just wouldn't really make sense. Because I would say, like, Philadelphia, they get aggressive, how he likes to do his shit. There's a lot of corners in this class. And going after one that hasn't played since January of 2025 doesn't necessarily compute. So I don't really see much of an issue here or much value. So I still don't think that there's going to be enough demand to make this move. And Caden Proctor could be that long-term left tackle. He's a mauler. If there's a better option, I think it's a great choice to go after the other option. But Caden Proctor has that really cool flexibility to where he can be in certain packages that I know Dan Campbell's going to love. And he does have physicality, and he does have potential. Like, as much crap as we want to talk about Caden Proctor in the way that he's super raw, he is still ridiculously talented. And it's not just because of his height or his arm length. Like, you see those flashes where you're just like, if this guy's in the right spot, which if you have a mentor like Penei Sewell, probably a good spot to be in, then you have a chance of being something that you just can't find all the time. Number 18, Minnesota Vikings. Again, you could try to do some trades and stuff. We're just getting at the point where a lot of stuff's oversaturated. And, well, there's one trade I want to do. I almost did this with the Lions pick there, but again, it's just the further you get, the more expensive it gets. And then, the less likely it becomes. I'm thinking of making a small deal here with the Chiefs because I'm a little bit worried about how the Panthers are going to operate in the next pick. The Chiefs have already gotten aggressive in this draft. Again, we already we ended up recomping our picks significantly. Pick 120 was 17-15. I think it'll be noticeably less than that. But I also want to be able to keep my pick value. So I'm going to give 125 and I'm going to get 161 in return. I want quantity of picks to stay the same and just end up changing the quality of them. For the Vikings, a 40 spot move down for, keeping the exact same player. To me, sounds like a good deal. But here's the thing. The Chiefs ended up getting Jeremiah Love at number 12. And there's a strong chance they want to go after an edge rusher. I understand that. This is also a very good deep edge class for that to happen. We're going to go Kenyon Sadiq. So we're absolutely fucking rehauling this team. We're going Jeremiah Love and Kenyon Sadiq. So think about this. The Chiefs, Spags is known for maximizing the defense. He's worked with, in my opinion, you can end up going after Trey Hendrickson. Like, if you're really desperate, think about that. Go after Trey Hendrickson, right? But have you seen Patrick Mahomes operate without a legitimate high-end one tight end? We haven't really seen a large scale test of that. Now, you have a really good backup there. But Kenyon Sadiq, very similar to what I talked about earlier with the safety position with Caleb Downs, you don't find Kenyon Sadiqs on the market. You have to draft them, or you have to go batshit and end up trading for them, which costs a lot more. So you're getting exclusive access to a super weapon in Kenyon Sadiq, right after the catch, which especially, given the fact that Andy Reid likes all these tight end and short range, is going to be extremely valuable. He likes to block. He might not be the best blocker in history, but he's still a very underrated blocker. And this dude can fly. And if he ended up having the year that he should have had, he would end up being a top 10 pick and nobody would be talking about it. Nobody, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is an exclusive talent. You pair him with Jeremiah Love, who's going to elevate the running game to a whole new level. And you don't have very many excuses anymore because you don't have to rely on Patrick Mahomes to do all the things that Patrick Mahomes does. Now you can just add that as a plus. So I really think that this could totally revamp the entire team, especially the offensive side, and take a lot of the stress off the defense. Let me know what you think about it. Number 19, Carolina Panthers. Edge rusher is probably going to be primary here. And you got David Bailey here. A lot of people think of him as a top 10 player in the class. For me, there's some off-field stuff that I'm not a huge fan of, but at the same time, again, I try to insert that, but also keep things relatively realistic in terms of how valuable other people think that information is. And based on the fact that I'm not hearing very much about it, doesn't appear to be a widespread concern. So David Bailey's been balling out. I mean, he's been playing huge in some of the biggest moments. Like, the team ended up giving up 22 points, but it wasn't really David Bailey's fault at all. He ended up balling out versus Oregon. Those are two NFL offensive linemen that he ended up feasting on. So I think he's earned it right to at least be considered. And getting some solid pass rush checks out. So we're going to go David Bailey there, edge rusher at Texas Tech for the Panthers. Number 20 for the Vikings. I was just talking about it earlier. We just ended up getting a free, essentially 4th round pick by a move up. We're going Jermon McCoy, physical boundary corner out of Tennessee. We'll see what Flores does in terms of the attraction he's getting for elevation of job. But Jermon McCoy, physical boundary corner, regardless of who the DC is, will be an asset and a complement to the smaller, more energetic corners that you do have. Number 21, Pittsburgh Steelers. Jermon McCoy would have been a really fun one, but wide receivers certainly available. You talk about KC Concepcion at this point. We have a lot of picks, so it's like not something that I'm like overly stressing about. Boundary corner absolutely should be at least considered here. It's a bad spot, in my opinion, for the Steelers. I don't really think that, there's a very easy, good selection. Colton Hood, Cisse, Abney, Terrell. Like, we do need a boundary corner, but we've been doing so much in terms of the veteran filling of those needs to where I don't know if we're going to do that ourselves. So it's a very tough spot. And honestly, again, I've mentioned this before, with Chris Bell having his ACL torn, there's a significant drop-off after KC Concepcion, who could be on another level as a wide receiver. And he might have had a 10% drop rate, but let's just be real. Marcel Reed did not put him in the best of situations 100% of the time. KC Concepcion looks like a superstar wide receiver. And I know the Steelers don't draft wide receiver round 1 very often, but I think if the cards fell like this, they're going to go after it. KC Concepcion goes to the Steelers at 21. At number 22, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. And with so many great options here, we'll have to at least explore a move down, but it is at that weird spot where it's like, well, Buffalo is just in a kind of a shitty position to where they should try to trade out wherever possible. So they're not going to try to move up because there's not really an option here for them. The Eagles, they're sitting pretty. I'm probably drafting them a boundary corner, and either way, they're getting somebody who I think works very, very well. The Bears, my number 1 target is Caden McDonald for them. I'm not going to necessarily gift it to them because the only team threatening to get Caden McDonald is the Chargers. The Niners are going to be, again, competing directly with the Chargers for interior offensive line. Same exact thing for the Texans. So you see where I'm going here. I'm not seeing an attractive trade partner that makes very much sense for what we're looking for. So if we're not going to be able to get that, I'm going to go after the highest floor player available. I'm just going to go after Vega, the guard out of Penn State. call it a day. Super high floor pass blocker. Not much to ever complain about. Even when the rest of the team was failing, he did not. Number 23 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I just talked about it. Corner seems like the right move. Offensive tackle just doesn't really pose any sort of value to me at this point because I think that Lomu a little bit more of a guard. At least you need to have the guard role open, which technically the Eagles do, but it's like, oh, you're having a position change. He's not as physical as the normal guards or as the normal offensive linemen are. He's a good athlete. To be fair, I actually take that back because I didn't really think Steen was overwhelmingly strong. Lomu is a dark horse candidate because he could try to be that right tackle and then be a guard. But then again, you're really starting to talk about now having to exclude one of your interior offensive linemen versus building upon what you already have. So boundary corner is probably the way I want to go. Avion Terrell makes a lot of sense. Colton Hood, Brendan Sisse, each one has their respective argument. Chris Johnson, I can't throw him out of the mix because he is someone who could be, with a really strong Senior Bowl, could be a first-round pick. I mean, it's not out of the blue, especially for a team like Philadelphia who took a Toledo corner in the first to take Chris Johnson in the first. But I would say Quinion Mitchell had a little bit more hype going into the Senior Bowl than Chris Johnson did. And he also ran a lot better than people were reporting Chris Johnson to run. So it's Avion Terrell, Colton Hood. Because again, Sisse, it's pretty tough after watching him get eviscerated for a game. And we'll see if Colton Hood even comes out. Like that's not even known yet. Avion Terrell has already confirmed. But you know what? We're going to go Avion Terrell. Because first off, you get that bloodline. Again, AJ Terrell, brother, who's in the league. But he's also extremely physical. I love the balance of zone and man skills because I know this team requires physicality and flexibility. And he can fly in a straight line. This is Isaiah Rodgers. This is what you wanted in Jair Alexander. This is a role that you've been looking for. And Avion Terrell still belongs on the boundary. I think he'll be a damn good pick. Number 24 for the Buffalo Bills. I already talked about it. I still want to be able to move back if possible. However, if I'm the Texans, I like to make some moves because I have a lot of draft capital and I only have a couple needs that honestly could be pretty shitty value at 27. Now, linebacker's underrated position to target for him, by the way, but I just don't like it at all in that late one territory. I feel like it's more force than anything. I want Caleb Lomu. That's my goal for the Texans because I know the Niners are lurking for it. I know that you could end up seeing another team like the Patriots try to look at it. There's a lot of teams that I think would have some stake in this. And for the Bills, if I hear that the Patriots could try to target him if he continues to slip, I'm all ears to the Texans because it's like, I don't know if the Bills necessarily view the Texans, even though they're technically higher than them in the standings, as true, legitimate high-tier contenders. But it's still, the Bills traded with the Chiefs before. I don't know what I'm trying to get at here. But again, 120 for 15 to 17. This is a noticeably smaller range. And so for the Texans, I actually want to recomp very similar to the move I made earlier for a similar pick range from, I believe, 20 to 18, 24 to 27. Again, we're adding an extra spot there, and it's like literally identical in value. I just think that's going to be a little bit more value to both franchises, respectively. The Texans have moved up, and again, they could go Pregnon, but I do think they like the flexibility of tackle, which Caleb Lomu provides. And number 25 for the Bears, quick and easy, Caden McDonald. There's not really, TJ Parker is an option, but Dennis Allen, 6'5", and there's not really an option here that's 6'5", 265 plus. And Caden McDonald is young, he's mean, he's extremely high floor, and it's a massive gaping vacancy on this roster. So there are a lot of good edge rushers. I just feel like that's a safe and easy pick. At number 26 for the Niners, I'm going to be going after a player who I think can end up cross-training as a left tackle for the long haul. I'm going to go after Emmanuel Pregnon, the guard from Oregon. He had some tackle tendencies over at USC, goes to Oregon, polishes up, and ends up being the best guard in the country, in my opinion. I liked him more than even Vega, but to be fair, they're completely different styles of guard. Pregnon has great mobility, but insane power as well. He has really long arms. He's built to be a quasi-tackle. So I would love to see if maybe they can try to cross train him as he continues to develop and become a superstar. At 27 for the Bills, again, we traded back. I'm happy getting TJ Parker at this point. Consolation prize. He's a bigger edge rusher. It fits. He's young. Call it a day. Number 28, Cleveland Browns. First pick was Spencer Fano. With the way the offensive tackles have gone, I'm pretty happy that we ended up addressing offensive line early. Now, we could still go after Chris Bell at this point. It feels a little premature to go after someone who just tore their ACL. But at the same time, it is, again, that big drop-off in the wide receiver class. And Ty Simpson's not considered coming out in this one. I mentioned that earlier. Same thing with Trinidad Chambliss based on what Trinidad's been doing. Honestly, with the way this class is unfolded, I actually don't think Chris Bell's a bad choice here. If we can end up trying to trade back, it might not be a bad choice. We're looking at the Rams here who are looking at a corner. Is there another team? Technically, the Seahawks. Seahawks could be looking for that boundary corner at this point since I just ended up sniping all the really good guards. And Brandon Cisse, Colton Hood, both those guys are fantastic. You don't want the Rams to have their choice. You want to make the choice for them. And Seattle, well, I think Seattle has the least amount of picks. Ugh! Fuckers. Oh, man, I really wanted to make that move. Oh, that actually hits me to my core. The Titans could be in the range for this right now. They ended up going after wide receiver. Definitely a team that could be looking at that prize position of corner as well. Like, there's some really good corners on the board. And I will say the Rams will take one and the Seahawks will. So it would leave you with Keith Abney, which is honestly a pretty good prize. I can't lie. But even with that, that's pretty wishful thinking that another team wouldn't end up trying to go after him. I'm not selling anybody, am I? I'm not selling myself either. So we're actually going to go after Chris Bell. He tore his ACL, but when you look at the utility he'll provide after the catch, it's just, he's a freak show. He really is a freak show. I got to see him in person. He was daunting. And I can't find a better choice at this point. So we're going to go after Chris Bell. Let me know if you guys have a different option that you guys would see and try to go after, but I just couldn't end up coming to bear on that. Number 29 for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm happy to go after a boundary corner for them since they went Mekhi Lemon earlier in the first. Colton Hood's a monster. Brandon Cisse is a beast as well. Keith Abney, he apparently is sub 5'10", so we're talking a little bit more about these first two guys. I would say Colton Hood probably going to be the more likely selection, but Brandon Cisse could test out of his mind because he does have some insane potential. It's just weird to see the slip-up games. I'm going to go after Colton Hood here, cornerback out of Tennessee. Number 30 for the New England Patriots. You know, there's a chance that Barmore gets moved. It's going to be probably after the draft, though, so they're not going to get any draft capital for this year just because he went Darth Vader on somebody. But I do think that offensive line in the mix. Again, I mean, it just depends. Like left guard is going to be the focus because you can kick Jared Wilson to center. Edge rusher, linebacker. I mean, edge rusher's not bad right now. You can look at Cassius Howell at this point, even though, you know, you like to have that flexibility. To be fair, Cassius Howell does have said flexibility. I think that's actually not a bad choice. Like looking at the other players that are available in this range, like it's not a bad option. Because he does, I'm trying my best to keep things fair, which for me, I really like Cassius Howell's talent. Scared shitless about the arm length at the size, but legitimate talent. Quarterback's obviously off the table. Wide receiver, there's nothing there. Tight end, nothing there. Running back, you got it covered. Offensive tackle, there's no right tackle available. Interior offensive line, we just checked it out. There ain't nothing, guys. I mean, Caleb Tiernan's a choice. And I love Caleb Tiernan. You see what I think of him. But it's just very, very unrealistic. Extremely unrealistic. So then you go to the defense. I don't think they're going to corner in the first. They could go Dylan Thieneman. He's been balling out. Very, very possible. Let me know what you think about that for future videos. And again, Barmore, if he gets moved, Christian Miller's right on the money. I like that. Edge rusher, though, it does feel like this is a prime opportunity to go after someone like Cassius Howell, who's in that 250 range, who has flexibility, who can end up dropping even into some coverage on certain plays. He's somebody who will end up fighting, like, he fights like hell. And I love that about him. So we're going to test it out. We're going to go Cassius Howell the first. I don't think that it's tough to justify, but we're going to do it anyways. 31 for the Denver Broncos. CJ Allen is here. He just declared for the draft today. And, he is somebody that is viewed as a potential first-round player. He's a thumper. I like him with Vance Joseph. If Vance is still obviously the DC, there's some rumors he'll be a head coach. TBD on that. Hey, Josiah Trotter's in here. Fuck yeah. Thank you. Oh my God, they're actually updating the board. Life is good. I also have Josiah Trotter over on the Patreon, but we're going to go CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia there for the Broncos. Again, just getting yourself a big, heavy thumper and enforcer on defense allows you to have a lot of flexibility. And at 32 for the Seahawks, again, Brandon Cisse is available at this point. I don't remember if he ended up playing in the secondary for South Carolina last year. Trying to remember where. Now here's a guy, fucking Chris Collinsworth. But he's young, he's explosive, he's a freak show. I honestly don't mind him here because again, the offensive line not really there. So I don't really think there's many other positions that provide the value with the ceiling that Cisse provides. So we're gonna go Brandon Cisse there. That's gonna be the video for today. Stay tuned tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Showing the love you always do. I love you. See you later. Peace.